Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Oner Podcast, the podcast where we break down and review films all in one big, long, unbroken take. I'm Austin Archer, and with me, as always, is my childhood next-door neighbor and lifelong best friend,
Kramer England.
All right. Last week I described my hat and why that was important to the episode last week.
Yes.
But I didn't say my shirt. I was wearing an alpha male shirt. And then it's like I was talking about how like I think Bear from Obsession, like I sort of get where he's coming from the first half of the film. And people in the comments were like, what are you and I was wearing an alpha male shirt. It's like, I need to make it clear I was wearing that shirt ironically to talk about the male loneliness epidemic and how that movie comments on how it's like largely self-imposed, and the shirt has like a kitty cat on it. This week, obviously, I'm wearing the producer of the film. We're talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu, Jon Favreau's new film that's in theaters right now, starring Pedro Pascal, as is every other movie in the world, and Jeremy Allen White and Sigourney Weaver and handful of other people. Martin Scorsese is in this movie.
Why was he in here? Why?
What?
Okay, he's gonna rip on superhero movies, but he's gonna go on the Star Wars movies.
This is the most Disney-fied Star Wars property I think we have. It's the most like thing that wouldn't exist without the Disney acquisition of the property. And then on top, I got a cowboy hat that says "Cowboy, take me away," because the Mandalorian and Grogu, fundamentally, like from the start of the series, was a nod to a kind of like adventure of the week Western serials that used to be on TV.
And Star Wars itself is like that. It's the Western.
Star Wars was a nod to spaghetti Westerns and to Kurosawa films and things like that. But then there's this thing of like the TV shows that used to be on like Gunsmoke, where it would be the gunslinger that goes around doing, and basically it's like this guy who's like he's a gun for hire, and people hire him to go. There was even a show I think called Bounty Hunter that like was
probably
or maybe I'm thinking of the show that is a fake show from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but either way, it's those kinds of shows that this is sort of homaging. General thoughts on Mandalorian and Grogu.
General thoughts. I'm interested to hear what you have to say, because I was not the Star Wars fan growing up. You and Kevin and Anthony, like you guys were the Star Wars. You had all the toys, you had all the stuff, and I was kind of like, oh, Star Wars is dumb. Like, even I've grown to love it, and I do love it. But so I don't know. We had this in our predictions. I predicted that I was going to have a lot of fun with it. I predicted it was going to do better financially than Solo, which it didn't do in the domestic opening, but it did in the worldwide opening. So we'll see how that goes. I thought I was going to like it better than Solo. I don't know. It's kind of, I had a lot of fun with this. I liked it. I thought the opening sequence was awesome. I thought a lot of the action scenes, a lot of fun. And that was like my focus. I was like, okay, if these action scenes are really good, and if Grogu's kind of funny, like I'm going to get what I want. And I got it. I got it. If I can pick this movie apart a lot, and which we will, because I think it needs to be, but I still really enjoyed it. I took my two sons and I took a bunch of my older son's friends. So they had fun. I had fun. It was a good experience in the movie theater. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it a very generous score at the end, just because I had a good experience and I had low expectations. So, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, obviously, like the Star Wars fandom is one of the most notoriously difficult to please fandoms in all of cinema, and you're never going to make a Star Wars movie or TV show that the entire fandom agrees on, because everyone's got their own. It's a big galaxy out there, and everybody's got their own kind of preferred angle, like their favorite films, and there's so many different styles that have been tried in the history of this franchise, especially since the acquisition by Disney. But there's been so many kind of like different, like the each one of the movie trilogies has its own distinct tone to it and thing going on, that are usually informed by like the era in which they were made. But like just from a, cinematically, the prequels feel like very different films from the original three. And then even though 7, 8, and 9 are like a return to more of the gritty,
Mhm.
handmade, real sets, cotton camera, practical
Yeah,
effects and stunt work feel of the 7, 8, 9 still have their own thing. They got
they
it. They're
do.
you have their it's a distinct
Yep,
own quality to it. It's a
yep.
lot of, "Hey, remember this,"
Mhm,
that and and a lot of maybe, like, not so original narratively, but, like, my personal preference as a Star Wars fan is I like when it feels like the property grew up with me, rather than just going, "Hey, you liked this as a kid because it was always for kids, and now you're an
mhm.
adult and you don't like it because you're an adult." I like Rogue One and I like Andor because
Yeah,
it feels like Star Wars grew up with me. And
yeah,
I'm just it's the same reason why it's like, hey, when I was a kid, I loved Batman Forever, and then I grow up and I watch movies like The Batman or The Dark Knight, and I'm like, I
yeah,
like when my movies grow up with me. And
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and don't just go like, this isn't for you anymore, it's only for the kids.
yeah,
All that being said, if the question is why does the Mandalorian and Grogu exist? I think the answer at the end of the day is like, why not? It's just like, hey,
yeah,
Disney's got the money, they've got the IP. And I would say one of the fun things about Disney having this IP, and it's like, hey, if this is going to be how it's going to be, which is like they're just going to make as much Star Wars content as they can, which
yeah,
is like what it is. Like that's how it's been for the last 10 years or so. They're hammering this stuff as hard as they can. I'm glad we're getting the amount of diversity in tactics and approaches as we are. And
yeah.
it's like if Andor is the vegetables of the Star Wars cinematic universe, where it's like, hey, you got to eat your vegetables now.
Right,
We got
right,
to get serious a little bit. We got to talk about like we got to do like serious socio-political commentary here about
right,
like
right.
fascism and revolution and stuff. Mandalorian and Grogu is ice cream, and I love ice cream.
Yeah, it's great,
So like
great.
and so it's like it doesn't all need to be just because George Lucas was making a commentary about guerrilla warfare in the Vietnam War and imperialism and the United States as this imperialistic force. Just because he was making direct commentaries with A New Hope doesn't mean all of Star Wars always needs to be making some really profound
Mhm.
socio-political
Right.
uh commentary. That being said, like I get when people are like when some people sometimes they'll see something like Andor and they'll go like, how come you have to make Star Wars political? And it's like it's always been political.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
been
yeah.
political since its inception. But then
Trade
also
trade routes, come on.
right,
That's
it's
politics.
arguments in the Senate and
Right,
and all
right.
these
Yeah.
and the formulation of the empire versus a republic and
Yes,
all this.
it's always been a
It's
yeah.
always been that. It's always but like that being said, I'd say it's also okay to acknowledge that what Star Wars has also always been is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I had very, very low expectations going into this film. I did not of course, I didn't expect, something narratively on the level of, like, what Tony Gilroy and his writing team
Right.
come up with. I figured it was going to be a longer, more expensive episode of The Mandalorian, and that's basically what it was.
Pretty
And
much.
what it felt like to me in the theater, I wanna say I enjoyed this more than I even expected to,
Yeah,
because what
that's
it
good,
felt like
yeah.
in the theater was like it just felt like I was watching John Wick in space. It was just like
Yeah, yeah,
it
kinda.
yeah, it's just like this guy is unbeatable in a fight.
Mhm.
He's a lot of fun to watch. It's fun to watch him beat up 20 or 30 guys at a time.
Yes.
And I like all of these like different settings and weird alien characters.
Yeah.
And I think that the charm of the relationship between the two central characters always hits just enough to keep me like
Right. Totally.
just invested in it's sort of like, like there's just enough charm to John Wick as a character
Yeah.
to pull us through narratively from
Mhm.
action scene to action scene. Um, so it's like, is this a great film? No. Is it
Right.
a fun movie? Sure, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I agree that opening action sequence. By the way, this is our spoiler discussion. If you want
Yes.
spoiler free, that's on our page now. You can go check that out. It's a shorter video if you haven't seen it yet.
Yep.
But we're getting into details. If you don't want them spoiled, you've been warned.
Yes.
But yeah, I love opening the movie with like, I love seeing snowtroopers. I love like stuff that I'm just like, oh, we haven't seen them in a minute.
Yeah,
you know? See a lot of stormtroopers. I'm like, where's this? I feel like I haven't seen a snowtrooper since Empire Strikes Back, and I was glad to see some snowtroopers.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think this is a lot of fun. I guess my question now is, okay, do we start with the bad or do we start with the good, or do we just go through it and
let's go through it, because we're gonna
let's do that. That'll be good.
We're gonna get kind of some of the
We'll probably do both at the same time.
Yeah,
there's okay.
It's a mixed bag. And
it is.
But yeah, like we start the movie, it's fun. I will say I wasn't crazy about this actor that they had playing the.
That's a big problem that I had with the whole movie.
There's totally
the villains were not villainy enough. They seemed like kind of just standard actors, which, not that the actors did a bad job. They just didn't feel menacing like some of the, like
Christopher Lee as Count Dooku.
I mean, even Werner Herzog in the first season of The Mandalorian, super creepy. And what's his name?
Giancarlo
Esposito.
Yeah,
awesome. Those are great. And then these guys are kind of like, they just seem like very one-dimensional.
Yeah, that's
standard
kind of
villain.
It's kind of a big Star Wars thing. Is like a Star Wars movie is kind of like a big aspect of it is like, how good is the villain?
Yeah,
and
totally.
I mean, Star Wars is the birthplace of like one of cinema's greatest villains of all time, Darth Vader, and also Emperor Palpatine, and also like Darth Maul. Like one of the things that makes Episode 1 so cool is like, who is that guy?
Exactly.
With like very few lines of dialogue, and pretty much every villain in this movie is just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, okay, all right.
There is no like big bad who we really feel the threat of. But that's also a big problem this movie has, is just like stakes.
Low stakes.
It has to like, it really tries to like manufacture some stakes at like at the, near the end of the second act and going into the third act. And it does. It's like, even with everything they're trying to do, you're like, guys, come on. Guys, I don't believe you.
It's like, totally.
But that's fine. And I just right away I clocked this actor's performance, and I just was like, okay, this guy's fine, but whatever. What we're told is that the Mandalorian and Grogu are basically the Empire has fallen. So this is after the end of Return of the Jedi. Is when it kind of takes place between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens.
But closer to Return of the Jedi. And the Empire has fallen, and the Mandalorian and Grogu are bounty hunters who are going around finding, Imperial loyalists around the galaxy, and on behalf of the New Republic.
And so they go to like this ice planet where we have a really fun little action sequence where the Mandalorian's just kicking butt, and
he got like, starts out and there's this group with a table, right? There's a bunch of people around the table. He's like, oh, long live the Empire. And he did shoot one guy just to kind of show that he's dangerous. Which was fine. But the Mandalorian comes in and just like kills everybody, like kills all he doesn't.
Did you feel like this was kind of like the Robert Pattinson in the Batman scene when he's in the dark and he's shooting guys with his laser and it's lighting up the hall, and
very cool
that like hallway fight where Batman's shooting the guns, and there were actually several action sequences where I was like, oh, you took that from that movie. Oh, you took we're just kind of seeing like Favreau and his team were like, what's cool stuff we can do.
But it was he doesn't get him at the first place, and then there are 3 walkers that are going along, and he gets into them, or he has a little chicken walker, like it's even a smaller chicken walker, and he goes. And,
I don't know that we needed the chicken walker skiing down the hill scene.
That was kind of weird. It was like, it also just felt weird. It was
I just was kind of like, okay, guys,
strange.
we like. it just feels like sometimes they push the abilities of the Mandalorian to a level where it's like, I don't think we need it's like Pierce Brosnan in Die Another Day when he's like
Yeah.
surfing on the when James Bond is used.
Yep.
It's kind of like, hey, James Bond is good at a lot of stuff, and we will accept that James Bond is never going to lose a fight in one of these
Right.
movies.
Right.
But we don't need to be like he can do anything. He
Yeah.
can do anything, and it's just
He
sort
can
of like
surf
what
on a huge tidal wave with a parachute.
right, and it's like,
Yeah.
why does the Mandalorian need to be able to ski down a hill in a walker?
I
Like, why,
know. That's the
like,
point.
he doesn't need to be able to do that, and we don't and he could just fly down there with his rocket pack,
That's what
like
I wondered. Like, why didn't he use his jetpack? Like, what?
yeah.
Save it on fuel? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't
But
know.
he
Yeah.
did. He goes down. He gets the on the 3 walkers. He takes out one.
Which
Just
I like these shots
yeah.
of them
Oh
falling
yeah.
over and,
The
you
visual
know.
effects in this movie are awesome. They
Eh,
look
some of
okay.
them are. Some of
I
the
thought a lot of them looked really good.
one of the big problems with the film, which is a character that's a main character, I just A, I couldn't get down with the character, and B,
Yeah, yeah.
the effect, like every time he was on screen, I was like, oh my goodness, he looks bad.
Is this Raga or
I thought
whatever?
Rana looked
Yeah,
terrible.
Rada. Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thought all the Huts looked terrible. I was
They
like,
kind of
my
looked.
goodness, they look bad.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but
His
there
was
was a
weird.
lot that looked pretty good. But
Yeah,
I
a
yeah,
lot. Yes, a
yeah.
lot. And I thought I also liked the cinematography. It looked very.
This movie's
It just
also
looked
like
good.
it's very animated. It's
It
like
is.
it's
It
I,
is.
I said in my first thoughts that like we talked about when we did Mortal Kombat and we talked about the difficulty
Yes.
of adapting video games. I've said from like the first season of Mandalorian that I've never seen anything that feels more like watching a video game than watching The Mandalorian.
Mm,
Because anytime if you watch someone play a video game like this,
yeah.
it's like every episode plays like every time your friend arrives at like a new area,
Yeah.
they're always like given a task. It's like, hey, you need
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ask these people about this. So you ask like locals, they're like, what are you doing here, outsider? And then you like ask them like, I'm looking for information about this. And they're like, well, maybe
Yeah.
I have the information, but maybe you could help me in exchange. And then like they give you a task, you go do the
Yeah.
task, then you come back, they give you and it's like every episode is structured that way.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're watching a video game. And there were huge swaths of this movie where I just was like, I don't feel like I'm watching a live action film. I feel like I'm watching an animated film. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone on screen is animated,
Yeah.
but then also there were a lot of things that were done practically and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that Grogu is a real puppet, honestly, I like him more because of that.
Yeah.
Like I can appreciate that they did that. But
I liked all the action sequences too, where it was like real
Yeah.
people fighting.
yeah,
I like
totally.
that. Yeah.
It made it really good. And this one, he goes up into one and he basically takes out 3 walkers.
Mhm.
He goes into one and there's a bunch of them in there and he takes out all of them.
Yeah.
Really cool scene. Very much like John Wick, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like it was a ton of fun. And the one is in the main bad guy's in the front and he's like, oh, have you taken him out yet? And he's like, oh, he's on the roof. And he takes out all of that one. He takes out all the snow troopers in that walker, and then he goes to the other one, and the bad guy gets away in some escape pod.
This is also like very James Bond, where it's like you establish a rule where it's like there's just no established rule of like how long does it take for a thermal detonator to detonate. And every time Mandalorian sets a thermal detonator on something and it's beeping, it beeps for like maybe 3 seconds before it blows up. It's like beep, 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 and then it blows up.
Yeah.
This guy flies away and he leaves like a whole bunch of thermal detonators behind him, and they're beeping for like 3 minutes. Like,
I know, it's so long.
And it's just like whatever. The rules are whatever they need to be for the Mandalorian to line up the shot, shoot the guy, and then fly out just in time for the thing to blow up.
Yeah.
But
Grogu's like, which was kind of funny. He's tapping on his helmet. He gets the shot off. He takes down the leader and jets out of the walker just in time as it blows up.
Yep, and he
And
jumps into
then
his little getaway ship with his friend, the guy that's from
yeah,
the, and then we and roll credits,
which
we're
which was weird. First of all, credits in a Star Wars movie. This
yeah,
is the first time it's
yeah,
ever happened. Is like
yeah. We didn't even
I
get it
was
in
like,
Rogue One.
huh,
We got a different
no,
title in Rogue
yeah.
One, but we don't get like a
There's been no credits in a
yeah.
Star Wars
And I
movie.
liked it.
You did,
I
okay.
I
I
liked
didn't.
the,
I don't care, but I also was like, oh, that's different.
it
They've
just was
never done that
fun.
before.
I just thought it was fun to see like a different
Yeah,
opening.
yeah.
And I like that they like this is like where they let Ludwig Göransson's music just
Yes, which
be
huge
yeah,
highlight of this movie, of
huge
why I
highlight.
love this movie. It was he's amazing, and
I
he did an awesome job in this movie.
I love that like techno piece.
Oh, totally. That was
The
my favorite part.
yeah, every time that music would come on, I was just like,
Yeah, it's
"Oh,
like,
yeah."
and then it came
Yeah,
on in the credits, and I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
this
Pretty
this
much
one's
every time
hitting.
that song came on, I was just like, "Oh, yeah, yeah."
Yeah, this is great. This is my jam.
I
So,
love
yeah,
a good, like, neon sounding, like
totally,
sci-fi
totally.
80s synth heavy. Boom, dun,
Mhm.
dun, 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 boom, dun, dun, dun. I was just like,
Yeah,
"Oh, yeah."
great,
It's
great.
like what we talked about with Mortal Kombat 95. It was just like, yeah, that
Yeah,
soundtrack is
yeah.
awesome.
No, yeah, it made it better, honestly.
Yeah, and I love, like, the mixture of, like, Star Wars with something that sounds like an '80s synth,
Yeah, totally,
I was
like,
like
it
yeah,
added something new,
yeah,
like, that's something great. He's and I mean, Ludwig Göransson did the original scores for the TV show, and
yeah,
I was so happy that they got him back because I was like, "Oh, they're probably gonna get somebody else who's just gonna do his score and do something that kinda sounds like," but I'm so glad they got him
yeah.
because he's one of the best right now.
But yeah, so I mean, like the whole beginning of this film is it's just a totally an episode of The Mandalorian. It's
Totally.
like finishing off one job, flying home to collect the bounty, and there's Sigourney Weaver to like give him his
Yeah,
next mission and be like, well, could like, how about this, Mando? And like the
yeah,
whole thing of like, well, let's call it in advance. I also
yeah,
like sometimes
yeah,
the writing by committee, like when you see the credit that it's written by like four people, it's so
yeah.
funny. Like, uh they're already like like of course there's going to be another job, and she shows him this ship that she's gotten him, and he's like, well, this ship's worth way more than the bounty on that guy I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
brought you. And she goes, well, let's call it in advance for the next job. And he's like, what next job? And it's like, there's always a next job. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
What
well,
next?
yeah. Are you
And
surprised?
also like I'm pretty sure in the scene earlier they were already talking about a next job, and it's like but it's like they've got to have like the line that just sounds like the can it just sometimes it feels like there's drafts of the script that someone needed to go back through and be like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, we said that earlier, so let's
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
also feel like sometimes, especially in big movies, they will over explain.
yeah,
And this movie had a lot of
yeah,
over explaining, especially Rada. Dude, he says the same line so many times. We'll get to that. But
yeah, we will get to Rada.
yeah, but yeah, he takes the job. And this is the thing. Okay, that guy, I don't know what that guy's name is, the
Couldn't
monster
tell you.
creature that's with him. I know he's from other
I'm
cartoons.
sure much more like here's the thing. I grew up as a huge Star Wars fan. I
Yeah.
am not like still
Okay.
to this
Yeah, yeah.
day as heavily invested. I
Yeah.
like Andor because
It's great.
it's
It's
more
great.
in my sensibilities today. When I watch like my frankly, my personal thing is I don't like most of the Disney Star Wars properties. Like
Yeah.
I think the Obi-Wan show is like pretty bad. I think that like I haven't watched a lot of the other series. Like
There are a
I
lot of bad. Yeah.
I
There's
watched the
some bad.
Boba Fett thing and that was bad,
That was
and
horrible. Yeah.
yeah, and like I think Mandalorian's just like fine. Like
Yeah.
I'm not very impressed, but there
Yeah.
are a lot of people who like I think if you've watched everything, then you're like, "Oh, it's
That
Meeg Whoop." And it's like, "Okay,
yeah,
cool."
yeah. Cool.
You know?
Awesome.
Yeah,
And but
whatever.
that's kind of what I think is a problem. All right. Dave
Yeah.
Filoni, he's kind of the George Lucas of all the animated shows,
Yeah.
right? Like he's done a ton. I feel like he is kind of he's not ruining Star Wars. I think a lot of people really like him. He seems to be, have a lot of really good stories. He's bringing too many of his own characters into these movies, and like I don't care. Like
Right.
I don't care. I think this guy actually looks really good as a VFX. Like as a
But see, even this guy, here's my like I kept noticing this guy's like it looks good when he's not speaking. When he's just
yeah,
standing there, I'm like,
yeah,
it could look like an actor in makeup.
it
But every
does.
time he spoke, I was like, his face is moving like a video game character,
It
where like
is.
it's too like overdone.
Yeah.
Like every time he talks, like he's like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I
And
just it's
he
that
was
weird thing where
super
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah,
He was very flat too. The acting was just very flat. It was all very monotone, which I was
yeah.
like, have
I
some
just
expressions.
I just feel like I've seen animated characters, fully animated
Yeah,
characters in live action films that look more
totally.
like,
Totally.
like when I watch like the live action Planet of the Apes films, I feel like their expressiveness
Yeah.
is more grounded and like the motion capture is better.
Oh,
And
totally.
there were a lot of fully animated characters in this film where like I just was like it looks a little outdated and a little like
Yeah.
behind the
Yeah.
times of where we are right now
Yeah.
with this kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
when you hold that up to like the motion capture performances of Avatar or and I know that like that's a high watermark, but it's like, hey, you're Disney. This is Star Wars. Like
Yeah.
let's do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And so, yeah, but also like Dave Filoni, like, okay, you don't need to bring all of these characters in. It's
and
just
if you are gonna bring him in, like, would it kill you to like give me like a clue as to who this guy is?
right.
But it just felt like the movie was like, you know this guy, and I'm like, I don't, but that's fine. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know who he is. I know he's in some other stuff, so cool, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but he was also in the movie. Dave Filoni was in the movie, which I
Oh,
was like,
really?
okay, yeah.
Who did he
He
play?
always wears a cowboy hat, and he's one of the pilots at the end. So
Oh, okay. I saw that guy,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
definitely was like,
Who's that guy?
I
That's Dave
definitely was
Filoni.
I
Yeah, yeah.
immediately was like, "Cowboy hat," and I just thought it was a nod to, like, the Western thing, but I was
No.
still just like, "Guys, I don't think
Yeah.
cowboy hats exist here."
Yeah, exactly.
I it's
Exactly.
just it would be like seeing someone wear a cap like this that says cowboy on it. I'd be
Yeah.
like,
Uh,
I don't think so."
yeah,
It's,
exactly.
like,
Exactly.
there's a specific way that hats look in Star Wars, and
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a few
So
different styles of hats, and there's
yeah.
but
Yeah.
uh,
So yeah,
yeah,
I think he kind of needs to
be
I
reined
think
in a little bit.
it's kind of a weird crutch that he's using. Like, oh, let's bring in this animated character from the animated show. Everybody would be so excited. And it's like, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
Get me different. You can, if you do want to bring in that character, given it another introduction, because most of the audience probably doesn't know who they are. And I want to know who this person is. Because you're expecting me to know who that person is. I don't want to do the homework. I
I
don't want to watch the shows.
I'd say probably our best, at least most interesting villain cinematically is the other bounty hunter that is going up again,
Totally. Totally.
and he never speaks the entire film, and
No,
he's clearly from the animated properties, and
I believe
clearly another
so.
Dave Filoni. But I'm like, hey, at least he's got the Darth Maul effect of just like, hey, this
Yeah.
guy's cool.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like whatever's going on with this guy, I don't even need to know who he is or where he's from. Like it's the Boba Fett effect. It's like we liked
Yeah.
Boba Fett but without knowing anything about him.
Yeah.
And I
Totally.
kind of think that works for this one character in this movie, where I'm like, I actually am cool not knowing everything
Well,
about.
yeah, because he's menacing, right? And
Yeah,
he's a bounty hunter. So we get like, oh, he's coming after him. And the Mando respects him. Like,
and when
oh, okay,
you
you're good. Like, so okay,
yeah
there's enough there that like I can latch onto that.
yeah
But this other character, he comes in and it's like, you expect me to know who this is?
yeah
Like, who is this guy?
yeah.
I
But
don't know.
anyway,
So yeah.
Mando gets his mission is he's got to go to this place called like Nal Hutta, that is
Yeah.
where the
Or wait, no,
huts.
he's yes. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's like where the huts hang out. It's where it's like, the Hut crime syndicate all
Yeah.
hangs out there. And and basically like their nephew Rada but I did like that. I will say I got a little excited because I knew going into the film that Jabba the Hutt's son was played by Jeremy Allen White and was going to be in the film. And
Yeah.
and all you see from the trailer is just his back. And so I was just
Yeah.
kind of like, man, it's been a minute since we've had one of this species. I'm not sure if their species is Hut because the language they speak is Huttese, or if that's like
I
their
think it is,
their
but I don't know. Yeah.
ethnicity or like I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
But like we have not seen this species in a Star Wars property in a while, and I didn't expect them to be featured this heavily. I kind of thought that Rada would be like a small cameo, but the Hutts are like a very prominent big part of.
They're kind of the big bad. They're the main bad guys. They're pulling the strings throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and I liked seeing like a planet that looks like it's where they would be, whereas it feels like Jabba is, I guess, like an alien on Tatooine. This planet feels, it even has Hutta in the name. It feels like it feels like where this species would originate. Like it feels like the natural habitat of, and I kind of liked this from a production design standpoint. The way that their palace sort of looked like Jabba's palace, but it looked more consumed by the environment of.
Right. It felt more natural for the environment. Yeah.
Yeah. But it also was like every time we were on this planet, things felt really cartoony to me. And like when we go to the other planet where Rada's fighting, like the Blade Runner planet, things, because there was a lot of like practical sets, it just felt more real. It just felt like, but this planet felt, it had like an Attack of the Clones cartoon quality to me.
Yeah, I agree.
We do a lot of like, speaking of Attack of the Clones, like we show up on this planet, we see a lot of like little fan servicey, like we see like battle droids from the prequels, and they're flying around on the little cruisers from the prequels, and
they're like kind of dated, not dated, it's old, they've been worn, and they're somehow still around. I thought that was a good touch. I thought that was nice.
So, and I kind of liked, I was like excited to see like, what are they going to do with the Hutts? I will say this is one of the elements of this film that in general just doesn't really work for me.
Right.
What they chose to do kind of creatively with this species, giving them more screen time, trying to deepen and expand on the lore. There was some stuff that I was like, oh yeah, I kind of dig this. Like this idea of like the heart of the Hutt crime syndicate, and seeing this like palace of like gluttony, and they're, being like massaged and fed food, and and I liked these like kind of like siblings that were like all like incestuous and like wrapped around each other, and like, but and they establish in this first scene with the Mandalorian and the Hutt and these Hutts that they can speak English, and so they're establishing, and it's like we've never heard that before.
No.
But it basically, they say, you need to go find they tell him our nephew has been kidnapped and he's being held prisoner on this planet. We want you to go free him. And they basically lie to the Mandalorian and say, we just want you to return our nephew safe to us, because we, our poor nephew.
We miss him. We love him.
And he's Jabba's son. And the Mandalorian basically, they're going to lead him to the target that the New Republic wants him to find if he returns Rada. So he goes out on the mission to get Rada. But Rada's the character that doesn't work.
Rada as a character overall is not really a character. And Jeremy Allen White has nothing to do.
There's just no reason why Jeremy Allen White needs to be playing this character. No. It literally was just like, they just wanted a name that people recognize right now. And it literally could have been, Harris Dickinson. It could have been Timothy Chalamet. It could have been anyone. Doesn't matter, because they changed the voice. Like they did like a voice changing thing.
Did.
Like, so it's not like, there's nothing about this performance that's like, oh, that like,
I think it's bad. I think it's a bad performance.
Here's the thing. It's a bad character.
It is.
The problem. So what they're trying to do with Rada is what Predator Badlands does for Predators.
Yes.
So the idea of being like this, like so far in Star Wars, the Hutts only exist as this like highly alien, inherently corrupt, slug monster, grotesque things. And what they're trying to do is like reinvent the way that we see them and go, what if the son of Jabba the Hutt wanted to be something different and wanted to rebel from, but so like what Predator Badlands does so well with Dek as a character is Dek still feels like he is part of the Yautja species.
Yes. Yes.
It's not like all of a sudden it's just like a guy. And like
Yeah.
Deck's not like, I don't want to be like my dad. If only
Yeah.
my dad knew that I'm not like him. It's like
Yeah.
if that was Predator Badlands, that movie would suck. But
Oh, totally.
Deck still feels like he belongs to the same like special category
Yeah.
as the Predators from the other movies. Rada does not feel at all like he is remotely connected or related to the Hutt
No.
species.
I think I really like this idea
Yeah,
because that's kind of what the Mandalorian did anyway.
right.
For those of us who have really only watched the movies and
Mhm.
some of the TV shows, I mean, Boba Fett's a bad guy, and Mandalorians are kind of seen as bad guys, right? Like
Right.
I only found out some of the lore when I started watching the Mandalorian,
Yeah.
but they kind of have refocused these characters in a different light. Like, oh, there are a lot of good ones. That's kind of what they're trying to do with this Rada character. But it just so I like that idea. It just falls so flat because
It's just the writing and the
yeah,
characterization and like the general creative idea for the character. He just sounds like a Gen Z teenager. He just sounds like a guy who's like people think I'm my dad, but I'm
yeah,
not. And I'm like, you
so
can't
bad.
be that and be a giant slug. You can't be a giant slug and be like, I don't want to be like my dad. I want to be different. It's like that can't be this character. Like
Yeah.
it just can't be. Like Jabba the Hutt is this like totally inhuman thing that's just like and
Yeah.
then like you can't have his son be like, everyone thinks I'm my dad, but I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm different than him. It's like that. It just cannot be that. It
No.
has to be like a guy who like still feels like he's a
Yeah.
Hutt, but who's
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
carve his own path.
Yeah, you can still make him likable
Yeah.
while being kind of gross and like Jabba,
Yeah.
but not personality wise. Traits and mannerisms and things like that could be because yeah, he doesn't feel like a Hutt. He just feels like a completely different type of species, like a cousin to the Hutts that is huge and ripped and like that can like a ripped slug, which doesn't really make any sense.
His
But
whole characterization was so strange. It
it
was just
was.
for me the whole movie. I was like, I can't get into this character. It just feels so.
It was so hard. I was
It's
trying to like him and I couldn't ever like, oh, this character's great. He's what a cool character. It was just kind of like it made it so hard to like him.
it's like if there was like a xenomorph in an alien movie that talked like that. That
Yeah,
was just like,
right.
everyone thinks I'm like my mom, but I'm not. And it's like, wait, what are we doing here? And
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to just go around bleeding acid on people. I don't want to just go around eating people with my second little mouth. I want to do other things. It's like, and you're just like, wait, hold on. This can't be what this character is. And it's like, no, he's different though. It's like, I get that. But like, if you want a xenomorph that's
Yeah.
carving its own path and doing its own thing, it still has to feel like a xenomorph. It still has to
Yeah.
feel like it's part of that species.
Yeah.
You
This
can't just be like, it's just like a guy now.
yeah, it
you
was.
know?
And yeah, so the Mandalorian first you have the whole thing with Martin Scorsese, who's a
Yeah.
four-armed like a monkey type species
Yeah.
and fine. I don't he
It's
didn't really add
fine.
anything. It was like, okay, Scorsese's here. Weird.
Yeah. It's
Uh
fine.
yeah, like
We are so on the Blade Runner planet. Like
oh yeah,
we are
totally.
the techno music kicks in and we go to the Blade Runner planet. And I was like, you know what? Yes. I
I'm
was
here
just
for
like,
it. I was and
yeah,
again that song came on
yeah,
and I was like, dude,
uh-huh,
this
yeah,
song is good.
yeah,
And he finds out Rada's fighting in some sort of gladiator type games. He beats the guy, kind of a fun fight, just a
mhm.
quick little one. And then they go backstage or whatever, and he's like getting massaged. This was probably the most annoying thing about this movie. He has his whole speech, which again, like I I can't get into this character. I like what they were trying to do, but the execution was just so clunky because he's like, I'm not my dad. Like as you just said, right?
You know what I'm saying?
And
It's like that can't be what a hut
no,
is.
no.
That
And
can't.
it's like, yeah, like it's just a weird, it just doesn't feel like
Like
it's working at all.
if you want him to like say in Huddies something like you look at me and you see my father. And he's
Yeah.
like, but like, like, but he still speaks like Miyotono Kodawa,
Yeah,
like some
yeah.
like where he again like Deck from Predator Badlands, where it's like he's still a predator, but
Mhm.
he's experienced something that's made him see the universe and the world. He sees
Yeah.
different possibilities for what he could be and how he could be. And
Yeah.
he's like figuring out how to do that. But like still fundamentally, it's like I think we got to see this guy Rada like be grabbing some things and eating them, biting their
Yeah.
heads off, and like
Yeah.
he's
Like,
still got to be
he's
like
gotta
a
be kind
gross.
of a he could be kind of oblivious, but he
Yeah,
could kinda be lovably oblivious,
yeah,
right? Like, I don't wanna be my dad, you know? Like, there is a version of this character that could work really well if you do make him more of a Hutt.
yeah.
But right now, it's just like, oh, it's Jeremy Allen White, but he's just looks like a Hutt.
He's just a giant slug monster that like
Yeah.
that it feels like a human being who's stuck inside the body of a
Yeah.
giant slug
That
monster.
yeah.
And it feels like he doesn't not only does he not want to be his dad and not want to be part of the Hutt's
Yeah.
crime, he doesn't want to be with his aunt and uncle. He doesn't want to he it feels like he doesn't want to be a Hutt. Like
Yeah, that's kinda
it feels
yeah.
like he doesn't want to be the species that he is.
Yeah.
And again, like that's interesting. Bring that into the script if that's the
Yeah.
idea. If
Yeah.
the idea is that he's like, I don't want to be this.
Yeah.
I don't hey, Star Wars, do you want to talk about like trans identities in your I don't know how deep down this rabbit
Right.
hole do you want to get? But it's like what they did with him, it just felt so Disney. It just felt like a
Yeah.
cartoon where someone's like, "Oh, people look at me and they see my dad." He's like, "You
Yeah.
don't know what it's like to be the son of Jabba the Hutt."
Yeah.
I just was like, "It can't be this, guys."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah, and they find out that they have to go see this other the person that they're ultimately trying to get to is Coin. His name is Coin. He's a
Dr. Evil.
yeah, he does look exactly like Dr.
They
Evil.
have to go get Dr. Evil on Blade Runner
Yeah,
planet.
on Blade
Yeah.
Runner planet.
Yeah.
They go and so he's got to go find him. They have a really cool fight scene in his
This is
club.
maybe my favorite fight scene of the movie.
Very cool.
I
Very
just
cool.
like
Very
that
fun.
it's all practical, that it's like
Yeah.
in a smaller location. I like that
Yeah.
the location is real. I like that I just this is like to me, this is where I was the most like, okay, this is fun. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Fun fight scene.
Yeah.
He sees the bad guy. It's General something, and it's like, or I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I don't even remember his name.
Coin. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But like, he's like, "Oh, come on back!" And this is again another actor that I was like, couldn't you have gotten somebody bigger that's a little more menacing? Like this
And
guy
did he
is
have to
really,
look so much like Dr. Evil?
he did look, yeah. He's like, it's just kind of weird. Like anyway, so
Yeah.
he has this exchange with this guy and he's like, oh, you could be a fighter for me, you could be a stable, and then he immediately gives it like all the information to the Mandalorian where he's like, oh, well, I'm gonna kill Rada.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like,
Yeah.
not many people know this, but I'm gonna tell you. And I was like, why? Why are you telling him?
I just thought of this, but like I've said John Wick. I've talked about how these the TV
Right.
show is based off of these westerns and stuff, but like this movie actually really does feel like a lot of James Bond movies.
Yeah,
Like
it kind of does.
how it's
Yeah.
just sort of like James just sort of gets an assignment. He has to go on the assignment. Things go sideways, and he's got to like,
Yeah,
and
like that.
like these villains feel kind of like James Bond villains, where they have their own henchmen, and it's just sort of like
Yeah,
and
but they're kind of weird because it's almost like instead of like villain of the week, it's like villain of the section. Because like you have the first one that he goes after at the opening, and then it's this guy, and he's like, okay, well, he leaves because this guy says, oh, you just consider being a fighter for me. And Mando's like, I only fight if I have to. I was like, man, you've been fighting a lot, dude. Like, that's kind of
yeah.
But he leaves and they go back to Rada. And Rada, this was the most annoying thing. Rada says the exact same thing that he said in his last scene.
Yeah.
He's like, I hear these people and they like me and they cheer for me, and I just don't want to be like my dad. I was like, you just said that. You literally just said that. Why are you repeating yourself?
The only new information is that Mando is like, the fix is in. He's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
But even like it's like, okay, so just Barada's like, nah, he wouldn't do that. And it's like, why? Like,
Yeah,
what are we talking? Like, why?
does,
And
yeah,
but we have the exact same exchange where he's just like, no, I like when the people cheer for me, and tomorrow I'm gonna be free. And it's like, no, I just told you, I just talked to him. He's
yeah,
gonna kill you tomorrow.
yeah.
And and then I also love
So
that
dumb.
that Mando says the fix is in, and then after the fight goes sideways, Rada's like, you were right, the fix was in. And it's
I
just
know. It's
like,
like, no, duh, dude. Like,
yeah. But anyway, we have to go in, and Mandalorian, while he's trying to like break Rada out, like gets like knocked out, and then he wakes up and he gets put in the ring with Rada. They have
yeah,
kind of a fun little fight because
yeah.
and then they unleash all of these other animals. Did you notice the little Easter egg here that
Okay.
yeah,
I did not notice this,
I
but
clocked it.
my son, my son who has been watching the Star Wars movies noticed this. He tapped on my shoulder. He said, "Dad, those are all the animals from the chess game
Chewie's
that
little
Chewie's
board.
playing." I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, they are."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Dude, good job. Like, way to notice."
It's a little it's a little much that they're like all there.
Right.
But I also was like, you know what? Cool.
I
Like,
was like,
sure.
"Cool, yeah, what."
You know
Like,
what?
it works.
You got to
That's
design a
how it
bunch of
goes.
random gleep glops, then
Yeah.
have them be those. Why not? And
Yeah, it's just like, "Oh, these are real things, I guess." So, yeah,
I
that's neat.
did I did like, how this fight scene, they have to fight all these little gleep glops, and Rada and the man
Yeah,
and Mando have to
yeah,
work together. I did like when they finally are able to like break the like barrier that's put over the arena,
yeah.
and all of these things escape and start eating people in the audience.
Yeah, that's kinda fun.
I thought that was fun. I was like,
It
okay,
was
that's
kinda fun.
cool. And that's like, just
It
it's yeah.
Yeah, so they have to, yeah, they get out and there's all these monsters and everybody's like, "Ah, run!" And they have to kinda, like, avoid the monsters, and Rada tries to get away. And again, a fun sequence, also felt very, very much like The French Connection. Now
Yeah.
that we have seen that, it's the train station, under the tracks. They're weaving in and out, and
Yeah, little speeder chase here in
yeah, yeah,
and
fun.
a lot of homages in this film, I feel like. But again, like I just Rada's characterization when he's like, "Sorry, Mando, I can't go back," and he like
Yeah,
fly. I just
yeah,
like every time he spoke, I was just like, "You're not a Hut," and I
yeah,
know that that's the point. That the film is like he's not
yeah,
his dad, but I'm like, no, I mean like I know he's not Jabba, but like he's not a Hut. Like he
yeah.
needs
He's acting more like a human.
and there were some people that said this about Predator Badlands. They were like, "That's not how a predator behaves." But I was like, I totally buy Deck as a character, as a
Yeah,
member of that species. They
totally.
do a good enough job in that script establishing that, like, no, he was raised with the same code and the same
Yeah.
harsh,
Yeah, yeah.
brutal beliefs, but he's slowly over the film breaking them. I just need to see more characterization from Jeremy Allen White as Rada, and
Right, right.
that's like more alien.
Yeah.
He's just like a guy. It's just
Yeah,
so
and
weird.
he's, like, so chill about everything,
Yeah.
like, because they capture him, they get him, and they put him in the thing, and he's like, "If I put you down, are you gonna be okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll be alright." And, like, it is weird. He's a weird character
Yeah,
that doesn't really fit.
it's just weird to have a giant slug creature that's just
Totally.
like a guy.
Yeah.
And if this was the first giant slug creature we had ever seen in Star Wars, and you just told me this is just how they are, I'd go like, okay, sure. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that it's like, hey, no, Jabba the Hutt is like one of the most like iconic
Yeah.
villains, and
Yeah.
he's one of the most alien creatures in the original trilogy. He's
Yeah.
one of the most like he's such a like when you get to movie 3 and we're introduced to this gangster named Jabba the Hutt, and it's that thing,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like I just think like you can't have the like his son just be some
Right.
guy.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got to still feel like
Yeah, a hut.
there's
Yeah.
there's something about in
Yeah.
his bone marrow, in his that
Right.
is,
Right.
whether
Yeah.
he's trying to be different or not, he's still fundamentally
Yeah.
a
A
member of
hut.
that species,
Yeah.
you know?
I think, yeah, and so after this is when Rada's like, "Oh, well, that guy that I was fighting for, that's Coin," which was, like, really very convenient that And then so they're like, oh, well, let's go after him now. And they go after him. And I thought this was really stupid too. They're like, oh, there's a ton of stormtroopers out there. It's like, oh, well, how are we going to get in there? And then they're like in the building.
Yeah.
That's it. They're in there and they start firing.
Also Rada's like, he's like, you're gonna need some backup to take out all those stormtroopers. And then Rada just like hangs back, and I'm like, why isn't Rada going? Like, why isn't Rada helping out? Like, like if we're gonna make Rada part of the team, if he's gonna be one of the main characters of the movie, let's get him in this friggin' action sequence. I kind of felt like this whole sequence was not very well it was just kind of like
it. Yeah, it's probably my least favorite of the movie.
I would have preferred if they could have just like had it be like Mando chase it, like captures Rada, subdues him, and then chases down Cohen and just gets him, and then we just move on with the movie, because this movie it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it could be like an hour 45 with how how just sort of like dinky the plot of this movie is. It's like, hey, let's keep it moving, guys. Let's,
totally. It was too long. Yeah.
So
they get the guy, they take it back to Sigourney Weaver, and he's like, this is Coin, and he's like, oh, they get him, and then she's like, oh, the Hutts were playing both sides, which again, she says this later in the movie too. It's like, well, yeah, what? Anyway, that was a weird thing that they did.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no duh. So let's see what happens after, because this is really
he goes back to like where he lives with Grogu.
That's right.
Like
that's right.
We go back to like
which this is the midpoint.
Yeah.
And this for me is the first half of this movie is much more interesting than the second half of this movie.
Totally.
Is how I felt.
No, me too. I felt like everything after this was like, it was just kind of like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And I wanted all of, I just, everything after the pacing from this point forward really slows down.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay for us to take a little breath here in the midpoint and have them relax before things pick back up. But then everything just felt like it took.
It felt kind of like a slog.
Yeah. And so it's like, so Mando and Grogu are chilling out. We get to meet their little mechanic friends that are, I guess,
Babu Frick species.
Which, like, these guys are minions. They're minions. Like, these guys are like banana, like, you know, pina colada, like, and then it's weird that they like speak English, but they're like they'll go like, Mando, we are here. It's like,
I always said we'd come back. Like, you have to really listen to them, but they are kind of like minions.
I did like when the dog like grabbed one of them and he was like, oh, he's got me.
Yeah. Oh, he's got me.
He was like, oh, he's taking me.
That was pretty funny. That was great.
Yeah. These guys and Grogu are being, I will say this too, like, they're a little inconsistent with how smart and capable Grogu is. Sometimes Grogu is like a very smart, like capable, strong companion, and sometimes he's just like a dumb pet who doesn't know what's who doesn't know what's going on. And they just sort of play fast and loose with those rules at their leisure. But anyway, whatever. This kind of cool bounty hunter shows up who's been sent by the Hutts to grab Mando. He gets him. Even this sequence of him getting him, I just was like, we're really drawing this out. Like, we're really stretching this out, where it's like, let's just get to it, you know?
Yeah, it really the pacing slows down, like you talked about, and there's a couple sequences in this, and I'm like, you guys could have breezed through this pretty quickly, but they really stretch it out. And but I mean, this guy is menacing, right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks interesting. He does capture Mando, and Mando wakes up, and the little Babu Frick, I don't even know what that species is, but those Babu Frick guys are like, they're in on the ship, and they get taken to the Hutts.
But those guys fly their little mini ship.
Their tiny little ship.
I like their little mini ship. I was like, that's fun. I like a little. I like a little spaceship for the little guys.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I love that.
Was fun. But they go to rescue Mando, and I do like, what I like about this sequence is it makes Grogu like. It gives him something to do.
It does.
But again, it's like
because and it also kind of goes with the theme of like, oh, the younger will take care of the old kind of
Yeah.
thing. That goes into
But
it for
it's
sure.
still like Grogu's very capable and competent when he needs to be, and then like very not all of a sudden when like the movie's like he's cute, and it just
Yes, yes.
but whatever. So the Mandalorian basically has like a Luke Skywalker and Jabba the Hutt thing where like he's brought before the Hutts, they take his helmet off to humiliate him,
Yeah,
and then they drop him into a pit to like watch him be eaten by like giant beasts, which
yeah,
like it's very similar to what Jabba does with Luke and the Rancor, but like and
yeah, and
this sequence I will say like did get me like this got me reinvigorated a little bit just because like being in water where you can't see what's in there and having things swimming around and is
it's
always just
pretty
kind of
creepy.
it's always just scary to me. I just don't like it.
Oh yeah,
And
totally,
I do
totally.
like the design of this giant like white dragon snake thing and
Yes.
you know
Yeah, the drag and I don't even know what those other things were because there's like these little like they almost look like cobras, but with a
yeah
face.
to me they were like scary mermaids. They were like
Yeah, they kind of
scary
were.
like,
I
mer
feel like
people.
they might have been on the TV shows before. I don't know.
They
Somebody
scared me. Honestly,
they're
this whole
creepy. They're
sequence kind of
creepy.
scared me. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked this thing. I thought it was good. He falls in the pit and he has to fight off those things first, and he's able to find some sort of spear and he kills them. But then the dragon snake, the huge white snake,
Mhm.
I thought it was really cool. I mean, he gets in some trouble,
Yeah.
right? And
He actually gets bitten and he gets some poison in him.
yeah,
And the Hutts and he's able to like get out, but the Hutts are like, oh, it's already over. Like the poison's gonna kill you. So
yeah,
we know there's a ticking clock now that like Mando has poison running
yeah,
through his body. Who knows how long it's gonna take? Grogu helps him escape with the little guys.
yeah.
They get out and they're like running into the woods, and the Hutts are sending all of their people after them. Um, this is another sequence where like the movie slows way down. We
After the which I do
Yep.
kind of like when he takes out all the people who are searching for him. It's
Yeah.
kind of fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, he really he falls and he's pretty much dying.
Yeah.
This was the most boring part of
And
the
I
entire
get that the movie's like, we want Grogu to like have a little sequence, but this whole sequence was just sort of like, what like
so long.
I was
Could have
I
been
was
done
also
in a montage in
yeah.
30 seconds.
And I was also just like annoyed. I just was like,
I was
wait,
annoyed too.
I was like, you
You're
sealed up the
ruining the pacing of this movie.
yeah, and also I was like, suck the point. Like you could have like if Grogu's
Yeah,
gonna like
force heal him.
if he's gonna force heal him and close the wound, what I thought the Grogu was gonna put his hand on the wound and like pull the poison out, like draw
Yes,
it out. Like
I
he would
thought
be
that
able to
too.
he'd be able to sense with the force that there's
Yes,
like poison in there and like
yes.
pull it out of his body and like
I
done,
thought the
we're done.
exact same
But then when
thing.
he sealed it up, I was like, wait, you're sealing him up with the poison in there. And so
Yeah,
again, it's like going to this thing of like, is Grogu smart or is Grogu dumb? And
yeah.
then we have this stupid character, this character that is just,
I
Grogu
don't get it.
just finds this old like swamp man that's just
Swamp
like
lizard that
he's
looks
just
kinda
like
like the guy from Monsters, Inc. a little bit.
yeah, and he's just like yeah, it's just Randall from Monsters
Randall
Inc.
from Monsters,
Just
Inc.
like, hey, little guy, you got a friend out here who's been hurt?
Yeah,
Well, you're gonna need this medicine for that snake bite. And he's like, buddy
yeah.
might die. Good
It
luck.
might be too late.
And I just was like, "What are we doing? What movie are we in?
Yeah,
Let's go!" Like,
yeah,
like we're
yeah.
definitely like
It took
on our way to
so
the finale.
long.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
It's like, listen,
And
this is the 3rd act. He's at his lowest point. We get it. Like,
yeah,
just go through it. Like, it took
yeah.
so long and it dragged on for so like,
This is
I
the thing.
don't see all this.
But this is what I was saying before when I was like, I don't believe you guys. When like the movie's trying to give me stakes, they're like, he's
Yeah.
got the poison. Was he gonna die? I'm like, no, he's not gonna die. Like,
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that makes me frustrated. It's like,
yeah,
listen, I know he's gonna be fine. Just get to it.
yeah,
That's all. Like
yeah.
you're gonna kill him now? No, you're not. Like he's still got to kill other people.
And if
So
you want to do he saves him, and then the Mandalorian says, "The old protect the young, and then the young protect the old. This is the way."
yeah,
Like you can do all of that when he collapses, he uses the force, pulls the
totally.
poison out of his body, maybe Mandalorian needs to sleep it off. He wakes up and says
Yes,
that the next morning they go
exactly.
right back to work.
Totally
Just
fine.
skip this whole sequence. They wanted to do all this stuff, like they wanted to be like, look, he's making a little Yoda hut, like Yoda
Yeah,
had
that's
on Dagobah. I'm
yeah,
like, I don't care. Who
yeah.
like the movie has screeched to a halt. Let's go.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
so long, so boring, so
yeah, but
doesn't
anyway,
work
he
well for
he wakes back up, and they go back for the finale, and this whole thing too. I just was sort of like, this is where again it's like he's just super powered. It's like we're just gonna fly this ship into their thing. Hopefully everyone's fine.
it.
Just kamikaze style, crash this
Yeah,
ship into
yeah,
their, and that's their plan. I did, I like him like grabbing all the weapons. I like him running through the palace and like taking
yeah.
everybody out.
Yeah,
It,
fun
it
stuff. The
it's
2
fun.
big, like, machine things that kinda come up. That's
Now
yeah,
I have a question about this.
yeah.
Did did it look to you like they did these machines with like stop motion?
Um, I don't know.
Th-
It could
so-
have been. They looked
Some
pretty cool. Something
something
different
about the
about them.
mechanics of how they moved reminded me of like how like old like stop motion animation. And I don't know,
Yeah,
I'd have to look into this, but I was like, that would be actually really cool if they made these
that
things
would
with
have been
stop
cool.
motion
That would
as
have
like
been
a nod to
yeah,
like because they have all these puppets in the
Harryhausen.
movie and
Yeah,
stuff. And but who knows? It just
yeah.
something about their movement to me looked.
Yeah,
But
I liked them. I almost wished it was a little bit better. It went kinda quick, but,
yeah,
I liked those old robots. I thought they were pretty cool
we
because they
just have
kept showing them, and I liked
yeah,
the foreshadowing of, like, these dudes are gonna be important.
we just have too many like boss fights to get through.
Yeah,
It's
I
like we
agree.
gotta fight
Yeah.
these guys, and then he goes in, he's gotta like do the fight with the bounty hunter, and then he's gotta like wake up
He's
Grog
gotta
or
yeah, he's gotta
wake up
get
Rada,
Rada.
and have Rada fight his aunt and uncle, and we and then we do all that, and we've still got Sigourney Weaver's got to show up and like do the final attack on the remaining forces with the we got to
Mhm.
have the final like Star
Yeah,
Wars X-Wing battle, which
yep.
is fun. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine. And they
But
have to and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna fire on my location. Fire on your location. Don't worry, I'll be long gone by the time you get," like, okay, yeah, got it, whatever.
yeah, but I feel like I was kind of out of gas by the end of the movie. I was just kind of like, all right, let's go. Come
Yeah,
on, because we just know
like,
everything that's gonna happen. And
totally, and
yeah.
literally, I think if they would have made the, Grogu, taking care of the Mandalorian scene, like, 30 seconds,
Mhm.
if you made that one change, it would have made this movie even better.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things you could change, but just taking that out because it's just like, all right, there's so much of a slog. We've lost all the momentum.
Yeah.
Getting it back is like, okay, I'm kind of done. Let's just kind of finish the movie.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they jump out, they jump into a
I
pond, and
I I
everybody's fine, and it
I
blows
did like
up.
watching the huts get swallowed by this giant
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
snake. I was
yeah,
like, that's fun. I
yeah.
kind of liked for like a kind of like a family-ish movie. I liked how like violent this movie could get, with some of its
It
like
was
side.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was good. Like, it
Yeah.
was a good and the action is a lot of fun. The action is a
Yeah.
lot of fun. So, yeah, they jump out, the tree explodes, they shoot it up, and then, they go back to their, I don't know, California planet, wherever they are,
Yep.
with the palm trees, and Rada's like, "Oh, thank you. Your dad's a good one." Like, "Oh, can I join the resistance?"
Remember the scene when Rada was playing with Grogu on the beach? And like,
Yeah.
there's so many scenes with, I just was like, what? Who is this?
I know. It was
Who is
so
this?
weird.
And again, like, I just don't think the animation on that character ever, to me, it was always like, I'm
It
not
always
buying
felt
it.
off, yeah.
Yeah.
And he even, like I know
Yeah.
Jabba the Hutt doesn't have a neck, but this one even looked like he had less of a neck,
Well,
like
it looked like they tried to design his face to look like Jabba's face with like the
yeah,
asymmetrical nostrils and stuff, but I was
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
it just looks bad.
It
But
did.
then yeah, and then if you're gonna try to have him be like a guy who's got that face, it's just weird.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, then Rada's like, let me join the resistance, and
Yeah.
and let me join the rebels. And
Yeah, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, Rada is a big part of the Clone Wars TV show, from what I
cool.
remember my kids, which is also another thing that it's like, do we really need him? Anyway.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
just fe-
they
it feels like fan fiction or something. It
it
just
does.
feels,
It's just
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what, like, it just ends with them kind of getting in the ship and
Yeah, it ends like every episode of the
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian and Grogu ends.
Yeah, it
They
just
fly away.
yeah, and I mean this is the big problem with this whole movie is it's so inconsequential. I
Yeah.
guess it's not necessarily a problem. That's fine, but don't expect this to have any influence on another movie whatsoever. It's just a self-contained movie. I was kind of hoping that they would like end the series, but I guess you can't do that because maybe they'll come back and maybe
Oh,
if
there's
it
too
was
much.
good, they could have a
No,
sequel.
you got to do another one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think they
mean,
will,
yeah.
but
But you got to leave it open at least. You know?
well, that's what they say. I
Right.
wish they didn't, but
Me too. But
yeah.
yeah, again, it's like, hey, if you really like The Mandalorian as a TV show, you're gonna love this movie.
Yeah,
And
totally.
and
Totally.
if you drop your expectations and just go, is there anything fun playing
Yep.
in theaters right now? Sure, this is a good time.
For
It's
sure. Yeah.
the Rada character I don't think ever works. I think
No.
most of all the characterization of the Hutts just in general doesn't work. There's not really a great villain outside of this like one bounty hunter character,
Right.
but there's like enough action set pieces that are engaging enough and
Totally. Totally. And
and
the Mandalorian, the thing that they did so successfully, which this movie did as well, Boba Fett is always like, let's be real, guys. Boba Fett sucks.
yeah.
Boba Fett is not nearly as cool as he looks. He's never been as cool as they want him to be. And the Mandalorian is who Boba Fett should have been.
Yeah.
Right? Like he is the cool one.
Yeah.
He is the awesome one. Boba Fett is just like the way he dies was dumb, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the way we thought he died. And like he looked cool, but he was never cool in the movies. The Mandalorian, this makes him cool. He is cool. He's a fun character to watch because he is kind of a John Wick type. Like, oh, I like the fight sequences. I got what I wanted out of this. If that's what you want from the Mandalorian, you're gonna love it.
Yep. That's The Mandalorian and Grogu. Let's get into our scores. We score movies out of 10 on this channel, 10 being the best. We give a technical rating, a rating for the ending, a rating for rewatchability, a rating for cultural significance and impact, and a rating for our subjective feelings about the film. Kramer, your technical rating for The Mandalorian and Grogu.
My technical rating, I'm giving a 6. I think that the fun action sequences and the good visual effects that they have for those, they work really well. There's a lot of really good craft here with that, and I think that it kind of did what it accomplished, right? Like I think it was a fun ride. It didn't really close out the Mandalorian, but it kind of wrapped everything up that it needed to. So there's but it also really wasn't amazing. There's all the story problems that we talked about, especially with Rada. Just there had some problems, but overall there was a lot of really good stuff in there too.
Yeah, I gave it a 6 as well. We talk about on this channel all the time, like judge the movie that they made, not the movie that you wish they would make.
Exactly.
Or like what movie were they trying to make? And it's like they're trying to make like a popcorn James Bond, John Wick, just like action, kind of turn your brain off, have fun movie in the Star Wars universe, and like get away from some of the more serious themes of Star Wars and just have it be like fun and cool. And the technical execution of that was about a 6. It was like it worked just a little more than half the time pretty well enough. And then like there were several things that were like that, like Rada was a very big character and like never really worked. And there were some sequences where the movie just sort of like died and just stopped. And there were some, definitely like some incongruity, and like some action sequences were way better than other ones, but works enough to like have a good time. How about the ending?
The ending I gave a 6. It does lose a lot of steam. Some fun parts in there for sure, but the Mandalorian Grogu healing scene took way too long, and I think that's close enough to the ending to kind of catch that. So, but still, it's fun. It kind of wraps everything up. It was fine by me. So
I gave it a 5 just because I feel like everything after he gets bit by that snake, or I guess he fights the guys off in the everything after he like falls down and dies with the poison. I felt like the movie never really like recaptured me. I just sort of like, I lost interest. And by the end I was like, okay, all right, done. So yeah, but like, fine, whatever. Rewatchability.
Rewatchability, I gave a 6.5, mainly for all the action sequences, and you could skip through the parts that are really boring and like aren't really working, but those scenes are fun, and that's what I want to watch again. So
I gave it a 5. This is not what I will pick to come back to in the Star Wars canon. I don't know if I'll ever watch it ever again, but if it was on, I might be like, yeah, sure, whatever. This is fun. How about cultural impact and significance?
Cultural impact and significance. I'm giving it a 6 because I'm kind of including the Mandalorian TV show in this. It is a part of that. And maybe I should do it higher because this show is very popular and it did have a big influence. But judging it that with the movie is doing fine, but it's not doing great. They did spend a lot less than they did with Solo, so there's probably more profit in there. But I feel like that's, I don't know, it's more than nothing.
Yeah, I gave it a 5.5. I feel like in the pantheon of like, I mean, it's been a while since Star Wars has had a movie in theaters, but I don't think that this is. I asked myself the question. I talked about this in my first thoughts. Like, I was definitely asking the question as the credits were rolling, like, was that the worst Star Wars movie? Because like I remember like the first time I saw Rogue One, like 20 minutes into the movie, I had the thought, is this the best Star Wars movie? Just because like you know, like the cinematography was just like so good, and like there was just like so much about it tonally that I was like, wait, am I watching the best Star Wars movie? And it's Rogue One. And but like I definitely had the thought when the credits were rolling, I was like, was that the worst one? And I don't think that it's worse than Attack of the Clones. I don't think that it's worse than The Rise of Skywalker. But I'm like, it might be like just above those two. Like,
I think it's on par with Solo.
Yeah, I think I think Solo's a little better.
It might be.
Yeah,
it might be. I've got to watch it again, but I did like Solo more than most. So
me too. How about your subjective score?
My subjective score is a 7, and it's mainly because when I don't think about it, I had a lot of fun, and that was exactly what I wanted. Had fun with my kids. I had a fun time at the theater. And the action sequences were, I was very impressed with them. And that was exactly what I wanted. So I feel like it's a solid 7. It's a lot lower 7 than some, but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 5.5. It's just sort of like, it's just right above halfway where I'm like, okay. Like you guys made the movie you wanted to make. And that's just, I stopped watching the series after like the second episode of the second season. I just was like, if this is all it's going to be every episode, I got it. I was like, I got it. Like, so watching the movie, I was like, not for me. That's fine. And that's it. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Did you like The Mandalorian and Grogu? Where do you think it ranks in all of the Star Wars films? Let us know. Is it the worst one? Is it the best one? Is it somewhere in the middle? Next week, if you want to watch along with the show and not have it spoiled by us, we are going to be watching Kane Parsons' movie Backrooms from A24. I'm excited about this movie. This is a movie with a lot of like online lore and kind of, it's just a very unique, interesting concept, and I'm very fascinated about this young filmmaker Kane Parsons, and really curious to see what he brings with with a budget and some good actors. And
I'm very excited for it as well.
So that's what we're watching. If you want to go to the theater and watch along with us, and like, share, comment, subscribe, all those good things, and we will see you next time.